Speaking of a megalodon, we imagine a huge sea monster that's been unrivaled. Don't they really exist? What was the red megalodon different from the usual one? You'll learn in this episode. Today, I'll tell you about creatures that could have been more dangerous than this legendary shark. Megalodon. This is the name of one of the largest predators in the history of the Earth. It was exactly the one who prowled the oceans millions of years ago and was considered almost unrivaled. And although purely visual, Meg resembles sharks, in fact he was much closer to whales, at least because the megalodon was a warm-blooded creature, that is, he could maintain a constant body temperature. Second, this monster moved slowly at about the same speed as modern whales, a little over 1 mile per hour. This fish also had a slow metabolism. However, none of this prevented it from becoming one of the most important in the world's oceans. We can talk about Megalodon for a long time, at least because of the fact that the exact dimensions and capabilities of the creature have not yet been officially confirmed. However, if we believe the already available findings and initial statements of scientists, this crazy fish was about 60 to 82 feet in length and weighed over 40 tons. It's believed that the force of the megalodon's blow allowed it to easily pierce the cetacean's chest. Just imagine, it's a shark that feeds on whales. Despite the fact that everyone keeps talking about the Meg in the past tense, there are also people who allow its existence in the present day. As evidence, they show amazing satellite images, amateur videos, or some isolated footage of remnants theorized to be from a megalodon. And as much as we'd like to believe it, there's no official support for such material. In addition, the situation in the world's oceans of our days can almost directly testify that the megalodon has long been dead. And here you do not need to be an experienced scientist to understand everything. It's simple. In the past, oxygen levels in the air and water were higher than they are today. So, animals and plants could grow to enormous sizes. However, lower oxygen levels prevent anybody from growing larger than a blue whale. And therefore, there's no way there could be a megalodon. Of course, if people suddenly prove that the next crazy remnant belongs to Meg, it'll change history. But so far, this has not happened. And frankly, I don't really want something like that to happen all of a sudden. After all, more and more often, the scientific world begins to discuss a certain red megalodon. They say that this is the same version as in antiquity, only much more aggressive and stronger. There's an opinion that the red megalodon may be alive to this day. Allegedly, it's even been caught and under investigation at the moment. According to the stories of those who have seen it, it is 100 times more dangerous than its ancient counterpart, primarily because of bloodthirstiness. However, it is also very fast, agile, and intelligent. Do you think the story of the red megalodon could be real? Or is it nothing more than fiction and a desire to frighten naive people? Write in the comments. In fact, I wouldn't worry about the red megalodon at all if I were us. In any case, it will not be able to get out on land, and therefore it will not interact with any of us in any way. Besides, it doesn't make sense to panic about the new creature because there's another creature in the world. It's smaller and much more real and dangerous. I'm talking about the inland taipan, a snake that could be even scarier than Megalodon. And now people who don't know are bound to wonder, how can that be? How can a snake defeat a giant shark? Very simple. Because the McCoy's taipan is the most venomous snake in the world. Its venom is about 180 times stronger than that of a cobra. The average snake produces 44 milligrams of venom, which would be enough to send 100 adult humans or a couple 100,000 mice to glory. I think the same megalodon could similarly be subdued by a snake in just one clear bite. The only thing that saves the fish is that inland taipan doesn't live in the water but patrols the land. Although in the case of this taipan, even the word patrolling sounds a bit harsh, as the inland taipan doesn't wish harm on anyone at all. Yes, he has a deadly weapon, which he can use in theory to defeat anyone in this world, the reptile is not in a hurry to use it. The thing is that it doesn't see the point in it. It's much more pleasant and interested to use the toxin for self-defense and lead a quiet and ordered life. When the snake hides in crevices and attacks only those who trespass on its territory or home. Otherwise, the inland taipan feeds on mice, rats, jerboas, and other small creatures. And here is someone who absolutely uses the gift given to him by nature, so it is Helicoprion. Or rather, it has used its gift in the past. This ancient shark has forever written its name in world history because of its highly unusual jaw. This saw-like thing could have up to 200 sharp teeth, wrapped in 2 or even 3 turns. The resulting thing is considered incredibly dangerous. The most interesting thing is that none of today's scientists know for sure what the saw actually looked like. Was it from the top, the bottom, and how tightly it was twisted? And trivially, what was it used for? One of the popular versions says that the arm of this creature was both an assistant for echolocation, orientation in space, and an instrument of attack. Allegedly, the shark could ram its enemy like a drilling rig and cause such unpleasant injuries that even the best underwater doctor wouldn't have helped to recover from them. But the one you don't have to wonder about is the Leviathan Melville. This giant had a staggering size, about 65 feet long and weighing 60 tons. Anyone who foolishly ventured into the Leviathan's territory would pay for this with his life. Not only did huge dimensions help it become so severe, strong, and uncompromising, but also that its giant teeth are considered one of the largest among all vertebrates in history. The upper fangs of Leviathan reached more than a foot in length and almost 5 inches in diameter. It goes without saying that huge teeth alone will not be enough, and you need to learn how to control them at least. Well, the Leviathan Melville had no problem with that. Its temporal muscle is considered to be one of the strongest in the world. With its help, this monster tore off whole pieces from the living victim and did not let it resist normally. Another device that allowed them to terrorize inhabitants of the ocean is this giant spermaceti bag. And no, it has nothing to do with reproduction. This thing was essential for the Leviathan's amazing orientation in space, or rather echolocation. With this pouch, the predator perceived all sound signals as radar and unmistakably maneuvered to achieve their goals. It's also funny that because of this auxiliary organ, the head of this creature was disproportionately giant. However, the predator was not at all confused and began to use it as a battering ram. Before using its jaws, it hit the enemy at full speed. Sometimes, as scientists suggest, even that was enough to win. But amazing dimensions alone won't always get you very far, and I wouldn't even say they're necessary, at least not in the modern world. The same orcas are not as big as Leviathan or Megalodon, but they would love to eat them both. And you can't tell from their appearance that these little cuties are capable of such terrible deeds, can you? I'm sure most people associate them with docile dolphins, but believe me, it's better to play with a classic dolphin than with an orca. Playing with the latter can cost you your life. Scientists have an assumption that orcas have become quite aggressive due to the fact that people, more and more often, go out into the ocean and create underwater noises with their ships. These sounds, in their turn, are strongly disliked by orcas and make them much more determined and angrier. Be that as it may, the main strength of orcas is not in their aggression. They can be safely called one of the most dangerous predators in the world because their main rule in life is organization. They always attack enemies as a whole gang after previously discussing the plan and deciding who will do what. In the case of the same shark, orcas jointly turn the toothy shark upside down and cut into its stomach, trying to get to the liver. Sounds very frightening, but there's nothing you can do about it. Shark liver is their favorite treat for orcas. This is due to its great nutrition and exceptional usefulness. After that, they lose interest in the breathless carcass, ready to go to the bottom where it will be eaten by other fish. In addition to their remarkable intelligence, orcas also have fantastic physical attributes. Their streamlined body consists of a thick layer of fat and a mountain of muscle, whereas their powerful and long teeth are capable of biting an enemy with a deadly force that many other modern predators can only dream of. No one knows how exactly they became so strong and what the future holds. However, the same intelligence of orcas amazes scientists more and more every year. For example, they say that orcas have reached such a level of development that they teach their young creatures something useful. Parents take their cubs for swimming and build a hunt as follows. They find a penguin and pursue it. They deprive that one of strength and then even make a couple or 3 bites. The main thing is that it's not lethal. And now the poor animal is already exhausted and almost lost hope for salvation. At this moment, the older orcas fall behind and the younger orcas take over. Thus, the offspring learn to hunt and at the same time practice team skills. Tell me, isn't it amazing? I probably know what surprising is, though. Amazing is being a 30-plus long-foot crocodile that weighs over 8.5 tons. Or, more simply, a Deinosuchus. And yes, you heard me right. In prehistoric times, such a huge crocodile did exist. By easy mathematical calculations, we can understand that in its mouth would easily fit several people. And the strength of its teeth would be more than enough to even deal with the strongest shells or skulls of prehistoric fauna. Herbivores or predators, it didn't care deeply about who or where to eat. As stealthy as a ninja, ferocious, and insanely dangerous, it was considered one of the main threats of his time. As scientists assume, this crocodile lived about 50 years and increased in proportions as well as modern crocodiles. But its ability to grow was retained for a longer period of time, so this walking danger grew to unthinkable dimensions. Sea wasp. Our next guest still exists today, but it does not even come close to the size of the same Deinosuchus. Despite this, the sea wasp is one of the most dangerous creatures in the world. It's helped by its tentacles and its ability to kill. But let's get to the point. The venom of the sea wasp is enough to kill 60 adults in just 3 minutes. It's common off the coast of northern Australia as well as in Indonesia. From the looks of it, if you meet it for the first time, it will not seem dangerous at all. The dome with a cubic shape does not exceed even 1.5 feet in diameter. Tentacles reach a length of only 6 inches and a thickness of about 0.2 inches each. But it's all a hoax. Mother Nature purposely made the sea wasp so cute and nice. If it starts to worry, its body immediately goes into attack mode and its tentacles grow from 6 inches to about 10 feet long. Lucky, at least, in the fact that the favorite food of the sea wasp are shrimps and small fish. It does not chase its prey but waits for it. If the victim accidentally swims by and even slightly touched one of the tentacles, it's dead. The fact is that the limbs of this creature are covered entirely with stinging cells, which are lightning injected into the body of the victim of poison at the first contact. The venom, of course, is one of the most dangerous in the world. Its power is enough to almost immediately send your opponent to glory. What's even more frightening is that this jellyfish doesn't hit its opponent once, it hits several times to be sure. This increases the concentration of venom in the victim's body. Often stung people simply don't have time to get to the shore or boat and drown. Fish, no matter how tough they are, go to heaven in the same way. Tyrannosaurus rex. Oh, and this creature has always been considered one of the strongest in history. Hearing its name alone, we already involuntarily imagine how T-Rex searches for a megalodon and copes with it in just a couple or 3 bites. But is it really so? And why do people praise the Tyrannosaurus so much? Let's get to the bottom of it. First of all, as soon as Tyrannosaurus was born, it was rather small, skittish, and fast dinosaur, which could reach a speed of up to 45 miles per hour. This was a truly amazing performance. Thanks to its high speed, Tyrannosaurus was able to outlast larger and stronger predators. And when the competition fell, it itself began to grow in size and take over. That's when the T-Rex grew, but lost its former capabilities. The same speed dropped to a record low of 17 miles per hour. By comparison, in theory, even a human could outrun it, let alone faster animals. But Tyrannosaurus had other cool stuff. For example, like its closest relatives, The birds, this lizard, had a lightweight skeleton. With a length of 43 feet, he weighed only 8 to 9 tons, whereas the same African elephant with a length of 23 feet weighs 1 to 2 tons less. Another interesting thing about the T-Rex is its keen sense of smell. It was it that compensated for its low running speed and helped continue to be at the top of the food chain. With it, these dinosaurs no longer chased their enemies, but slowly followed them on their heels and simply ambushed them. There's also an opinion that these creatures could be scavengers and not hunt at all. However, it's difficult to believe in this because of the appearance of this monster. Could such a giant not use its physical data? Here's one more thing I'd like to talk about. This photo, which was sent to me by a subscriber. According to him, this is not a random photo from the internet, but a real proof of a story that happened to scientists at the end of the 20th century. According to the legend, in a remote and unexplored part of the forest, in the west of a small village, a small group of scientists lived. They were avid travelers and were always looking for unexplored nooks of nature. One day, as they set out to explore, they stumbled upon something amazing. Following the unusual cries of birds, the scientists came to a dense area of the forest where there had never been any human before. There, among the dense thickets and tall trees, they discovered the remains of a giant and dangerous dinosaur. It was so large that its head was comparable to 3 adults. Of course, they immediately took samples of the remaining tissue and took it back to their lab. The public was only given a picture, not wanting to share this amazing find. The scientists asked for a lot of money for the information, which the government was not willing to give. Do you think the people shouldn't have paid them? Or did the authorities make the right choice, considering these guys charlatans and liars? Share your thoughts in the comments. A big find in South Africa, but I would definitely not consider scientists from South Africa charlatans because they not only found traces of an ancient and giant dinosaur, but also provided open access to them for all comers. This is not the first time that these paleontologists have forced others to look at the world from a different angle. Just imagine, about 200 million years ago, our planet was inhabited by a 12-ton dinosaur, one of the largest land animals in history. The paleontologists have found that the ancient lizard walked on 4 legs and lived on the plains of modern-day South Africa. The area is now a mountainous region with grasslands, but 200 million years ago, it was semi-desert with small oases. The dinosaurs are thought to have led a nomadic lifestyle, moving from one fertile area to another. Once the bones of this monster were completely removed from the ground, people were in confusion for a long time, trying not to make a mistake about which species of dinosaur it belongs to. The dinosaur was similar to many, but its large limbs did not allow making the wrong decision. In the end, scientists said that this monster was related to other species, so with a high degree of probability, it's a completely new species and not someone already known. A huge skeleton. The next amazing find was made in Portugal in 2017. At that time, construction work was underway in this area, and people did not even think of finding someone. But suddenly, and unexpectedly for everyone, something strange was found under one of the towns. These were fragments of fossilized bones of a dinosaur. It was not just another small dinosaur, but the largest one. Portuguese and Spanish paleontologists immediately arrived at the site and began to dig up dinosaur traces. As a result, they came to the conclusion that their find was the skeleton of probably the largest dinosaur ever discovered in Europe at that time. This giant must have belonged to sauropods, a vast group of 4-legged herbivorous dinosaurs characterized by long necks and tails. Its height was 40 feet, and it reached 80 feet in length. This find became incredibly valuable, not only because of its size, but also because all of these bones were in fairly good condition. They allowed scientists to learn much more about ancient creatures than expected. Flying dinosaur. Terrestrial predators are cool, but it's just as cool to find traces of flying monsters that hovered above the planet hundreds of millions of years ago. One of them was this young pterosaur, which skeleton was found by an ordinary graduate student. The girl was vacationing on the island of Skye in Scotland and unexpectedly came across something solid and strange. She decided to dig up this mystery and with every step she was more and more surprised. The graduate student did not believe her luck, but still found the strength to dial the real scientists doing excavation. They arrived at the site and thanked her for her promptness. Now the scientists had a giant skeleton of a young pterosaur. It's even scary to imagine what it could be if it grew up a little more, because according to calculations, its wingspan was 8.2 feet at that moment. Because of their enormous size, these raptors could prey on land animals. Interestingly, earlier scientists thought that pterosaurs increased in size much later, but apparently everything was slightly different, and the story will still have to be corrected. And while we're talking about pterosaurs, let's mention the legendary soaring representative of this clade, which is considered to be not the largest in all of history, but certainly one of the most interesting. I'm talking about Asdarcho. It's worth stating with the fact that even the name of this monster alone is unusual, which came from the analog of the fire drake in the Western Turks. It was a 100-year-old snake with many heads that lived in bodies of water. Ironically, according to scientists, Asdarcho also liked to relax in the water, even though it was a flying predator. Although it actually makes sense. This pterosaur must have used its long neck as a cutwater, which allowed it to hunt aquatic animals while remaining in flight. However, later this idea was rejected. It turns out that Asdarcho did not have some specializations necessary for such a way of life. Besides, such a hunt was quite energy-consuming, and given its size, it would not be profitable at all. But how did the pterosaur hunt in this case? Everything is much simpler than it might seem at first glance. Although the animal had wings, they were not strong enough, and the excess weight did not allow the monster to fly. It hovered only in calm weather when nothing was in its way, and it did it for relatively short distances. The rest of the time, Asdarcho wandered through swamps and forests, searching for prey equal to its size, which it dealt with one precise blow of its beak. The beak, by the way, had just insane size, which means that the strength in it was beyond the limit. Another creature that was happy to boast of its incredible strength was Leopleurodon. This monster did not walk on land, for it was a sea dweller. Its strong and large flippers allowed it to easily travel any, even great distances in a short period of time. The fact that it easily caught up with absolutely any prey is obvious. And even if the prey was hiding from Leopleurodon, it didn't help it much. After all, the predator had nostrils, able to catch any odor underwater. It fed on large fish, mollusks, as well as other marine reptiles. In fact, it's quite difficult to assess its capabilities because people do not fully understand how large it was. For example, at the end of the 20th century, in one of the movies, it was shown as an 80-foot giant weighing 150 tons. Something incredible, right? Later, after studying new remains, people made adjustments and reduced the size by almost half. However, this is still not fully confirmed, so who knows? Maybe it was even bigger than we think. Sarcosuchus. Of course, you can think about the potential of animals for a long time, but the facts remain and they need to be accepted. So now I'll tell you about an animal that really put even the largest dinosaurs of its time to flight, and there's no doubt about it. I'm talking about Sarcosuchus, if its modern relative, the saltwater crocodile, which is the largest representative of the crocodile family, would never have challenged dinosaurs, then Sarcosuchus not only did it, but also hunted them for real. It could reach 40 feet in length and weigh over 4 tons. Narrow muzzles are more hydrodynamic than wide jaws, so it takes less effort to open and close them quickly underwater. As they matured, the muzzle of Sarcosuchus became wider. Along with this, their diet expanded. They had the same careful hunting style as their modern relatives. Sarcosuchus never let anyone go. When Sarcosuchus opened its mouth, it definitely caught prey, and there was no way for anyone to get out of its mouth anymore. If the target was too large, it would simply bite it from different sides, thus depriving it of strength and the ability to move normally. Once the prey had lost control of its body, Sarcosuchus would return to it and finish what it had started. It definitely wasn't going to waste its energy on these stupid things. In theory, it would have defeated Leopleurodon, Asdarcho, and many other creatures, if only they didn't have a numerical advantage. But there's one opponent I'm not sure about, and that's Megalodon. If it were next to Sarcosuchus, I wouldn't say which animal would win. It had the same powerful jaws, giant teeth, and just abnormal size, even bigger than that of the crocodile. At the same time, Megalodon was inferior to the crocodile in maneuverability and was less intelligent. It wasn't used to acting according to the situation. Because the legendary shark was at the top of the food chain, it didn't have to reinvent the wheel. It just went out hunting and ate whoever got in its way indiscriminately. That's why its hunting intelligence was dulled, which is not the case with the crocodile. And now I'll tell you about sharks, which even Megalodon was afraid of. The creature that will be discussed now has an interesting name. It's consonant with the pseudonym of the villain from the first parts of Spider-Man movies. Hint, the name begins with the word green. He flew and threw bombs. Yeah, of course, you thought right. I mean goblin. Shark, on the other hand, got such an unusual name for its ridiculous appearance. It is, to say the least, those pinkish colors on the snout are directly related to the shark's large number of blood vessels. Well, the rest is just a figment of nature's imagination. Fishermen were lucky enough to catch this creature in the 1980s. People were shocked to encounter this monster of the deep. The creature was first handed over to scientists for detailed study. Nevertheless, it was never possible to learn anything for sure about the entire genus of these sharks. Too few individuals were caught by humans. It's known that these sharks can grow up to almost 13 feet in length and weigh more than 440 pounds. The main feature of this fish is its liver. The liver, by the way, weighs a quarter of the total body weight of the fish. In the goblin, this is not a simple organ. It stores nutrients, which helps the shark to live a long time without food. Even 2 or 3 weeks of starvation will not deprive it of all its strength. Another important function of the liver is to replace the swim bladder. Although, if I could give hints, I would definitely advise the goblin shark not to be afraid of anyone and to swim out to hunt at any time of the day or night. Would any creature dare attack this monster in the literal sense of the word? I think even Megalodon was uncomfortable with the sight of such a shark. And it's true, because the goblin shark has existed on our planet for 125 million years, which means that it managed to frighten even the huge Megalodon shark more than once. Leviathan. And this, my friends, seems to be a creature that, in its power and bloodthirstiness, would give even Megalodon a head start. Don't believe me? Well, then listen about Leviathan. Let's start with the first find pertaining to this creature. It was a skull found in Peru. The skull was 10 feet long, and that's not much, but the power of this fish is something else entirely. The dominance that this fish had many millions of years ago, Leviathan got because of all sorts of tricks in its structure. For example, Leviathan's super powerful jaw with simply anomalous teeth helped it destroy any prey that it wanted. They're one of the largest among vertebrates. The upper fangs of Leviathan reached almost 14 inches in length and 5 inches in diameter. Just imagine that tooth, and then imagine an entire jaw of such sharp daggers. You might say, but you can't surprise anyone with just teeth. What's the use of them? And I'll tell you, as a gift from nature, this fish received a very strong temporal muscle. In mammals, it's responsible for the power of biting. So Leviathan easily tore off whole pieces from the still alive prey. Here you'll ask a counter question. What's the use of Leviathan biting so hard? It simply can't catch up with Megalodon and take it by surprise. Rather, the giant shark will attack from somewhere unexpected and swallow Leviathan. It would be like that if not for the organ that helped Leviathan navigate in space. A giant spermaceti organ which perceived sound signals as a radar helped the animal in this. By the way, one more interesting fact is because of the spermaceti organ, the head of Leviathan looks simply gigantic and even ridiculous. The fish could ram any target with it and still feel normal. For several millions of years, this monster swam the seas and oceans and didn't let anyone live in peace. Only natural changes, or precisely changes in climate, have calmed Leviathan down. Global cooling has sharply affected the ocean currents, which in turn upset the balance of plankton and krill, the main prey of baleen whales. Now, this entire microorganic crowd lived near the poles, so the baleen whales had to migrate after them. Well, those whales that remained in the warm tropical seas were to die out due to starvation. Leviathan simply had nothing to eat because all the baleen whales at the equator were extinct. And if its congener, the sperm whale, is adapted to hunting giant squids on the depths where the temperature is always more or less stable, then Leviathan, that intimidated everybody on the surface, was left alone with small fish. But alas, they couldn't feed Leviathan, which weighed several tens of tons. Since I mentioned sperm whales, I suggest we look at them, because these creatures also definitely deserve attention. The fact is that these creatures have literally no equal on Earth nowadays in terms of their unique body structure. When you see these creatures, you inadvertently think, what if the sperm whale is not from our planet at all? What if it was put here by aliens? What's more, the sperm whale behaves differently all the time. Sometimes it may behave like it was a knight in the past life that honored laws and rules. At other times, the alien creature may massacre everything indiscriminately and not even succumb to the slightest bit of doubt. But let's go everything in order. Let's start with a description of the creature. The average length of the males is 66 feet, and the females are about 36 feet long. They can weigh up to 70 and 30 tons respectively. This is the first difference from most creatures, as almost always the female is larger than the male. But this is only the tip of the sperm whale's life. It also has an intestine which is 525 feet long. And why, one may ask, is it so large? Even scientists still can't give a definite answer. Intestine, by the way, is not the only organ that differs from other creatures. The sperm whale also has non-standard lungs. They're 2 times smaller than those of older whales. Until now, scientists are not quite clear where it gets so much air to stay underwater for hours. The brain of the sperm whale is the largest in the entire animal world, yet it's only a few times larger than the human brain. And the brain is in the head, which is a third of the entire huge body. Why is it so huge? As for the jaws, the lower jaw is much shorter and smaller than the upper one, which is completely fused with the head. The lower jaw contains 18 to 30 pairs of conical teeth. The weight of each of them is about 2 pounds. And it would be okay, it's a carnivore and seems to need teeth, but the thing is that the sperm whale practically doesn't use them. It just sucks up its prey and that's all. At the same time, its mouth opens 90 degrees. Speaking of prey, anyone can be it. After all, the giant needs to eat about a ton of food a day. From the creature that lives in our modern oceans, I propose to go to a much more ancient but no less dangerous and interesting creature, Mosasaurus huffmani. In brief, it was a widespread and very successful marine predator which appeared about 70 million years ago. For the average person, it may be a revelation that this more than 46-foot-long sea monster was actually a lizard, but not a simple one. It was a much more advanced and intelligent lizard. This so-called advanced lizard bore many similarities to whales. It ate everything it could get its hands on. The main thing was that its prey was big enough to make up for the lizard's energy expenditure on the hunt. Speaking of hunting, Mosasaurus huffmani preferred the following method. It would hide in the depths and wait for the right moment until the prey was above it. As soon as the right moment came, Mosasaurus huffmani rushed upwards and rammed its potential prey, stunning it and trapping it with its powerful jaws, thus depriving it of the ability to move. And then it was a matter of technique. And considering the size of Mosasaurus huffmani, 49 to 56 feet in length and weighing about 15 tons, it was almost always possible to ram the prey. The force of the blow was colossal. Basilosaurus. Next, we have another creature that has the saurus suffix in its name. You might ask the logical question, why is it a saurus? Were they dinosaurs? And indeed, the creature received such a name by mistake. The fact is that when its skeleton was first found, scientists identified Basilosaurus to dinosaurs because of the large number of finds. They thought such a giant couldn't swim somewhere underwater. Some time passed and the scientists realized that their colleagues were wrong, and before them was still a whale. Then the animal was given another name, Zeuglodon, which translates as whale-like yolk teeth. Fun fact, people have not been properly engaged in the search of the remains of this creature. Its bones washed up ashore on their own. Curiously enough, without giving them much importance, people began to use these bones in the construction of furniture. Just imagine, today there's a piece of Basilosaurus in some locker, and 40 million years ago, it was the largest predator of all living then. Because of its long vertebrae, its body was about 59 to 69 feet long. Wiggling like a snake in the water, this giant easily caught up with its prey, large fish, sharks, and even whales. And here's another interesting fact about this creature. Basilosaurus had what's called hind limbs. They were small and weak, used by the creature only for mating. But that was not their essence and significance for humans. It was these limbs that became the first in the history of irrefutable evidence of kinship between modern whales and their ungulate ancestors. Nowadays, there are enough sea giants that will strike a chord in you. The Shark Show. Did you know that sharks can jump out of the water? I never thought of that before. Turns out I should have. The tourists stood somewhere on the shore and watched the strong waves crashing a few feet away from them. But very soon they were frightened by something else, much bigger and more dangerous. It was a giant shark jumping out of the water. It's quite hard to believe in such a thing, but the video was filmed well. I even think it's not a fake, although it's hard to believe in such a thing. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you see this trace? Who or what do you think left it? If someone asked me that question, I'd say that it's a trace of a big boat or a ship of some kind, but definitely not a trace of a giant shark swimming somewhere down under the water at this very moment. It turned out that it was really a shark, which, among other things, then showed interest in the boat of the author of the video. I hope it didn't encroach on it in any way. Otherwise, given the size, it could have swallowed the engine with one bite. Tuna as bait. If you want to encounter a great white shark or any other shark in the wild, take this man's example and use tuna as bait. I think it worked just perfectly. The predator immediately took the bait and showed itself in all its glory in front of the fishermen and tourists. The main thing at this point is not to hold the line with the tuna too tightly. Otherwise, the shark can pull it and take with it an additional prize in the form of a man. And it's unlikely that anyone would like that. Record breaker. In fact, there are quite a few videos featuring giant sharks on the internet. All of them are amazing and literally make one speechless. Nevertheless, it's quite problematic to believe in them fully. The clips are posted by strange channels with a small number of views. Many of them are in terrible quality, and in addition, the authors refuse to give them for verification. In short, there's very little chance of believing them. On the other hand, there are news outlets and their reports. They're checked much more rigorously and are at least easily checked. So it was in one of these reports that people were discussing this record breaker. According to them, at the time it was the largest great white shark ever filmed by a human being. One can only guess what its size was, but one thing's for sure, it was gigantic, rather abnormal. If it caught sight of a small boat, I think it could swallow it whole, along with the fishermen. Uninvited guest. By the way, did you know that you can encounter sharks not only in some distant ocean or deep sea? Sometimes, due to tides, their habitat changes slightly and becomes much closer than we previously thought. For example, here, a great white shark was found right near some state in America. It was hiding in the water just a few feet from the road where adults walk and children have fun. Even though nothing happened on this clip, understanding the whole situation alone already makes one have terrible thoughts. And if now some of you think that sharks rarely attack people at all, you should know that you're very wrong. These predators are just happy to eat us. I mean, think about it. We can't fight back. We have a lot of blood, flesh, and bones in us. In this clip, two friends were fishing in the middle of the sea when suddenly their idyll was disturbed by a dangerous great white shark. It either really wanted to join them and fish together, which I don't really believe in, or it wanted to jump on board and eat every last one of them. The great white shark was clinging to the boat with its teeth, and it looked really creepy. For a moment, it seemed that the people had no chance to survive. However, luck and fate still favored the fishermen at that moment, and the predator retreated. Attack from the back. In general, being in the water, you should always be focused. Who knows what the next attack will turn out to be, or where to expect it from? Here, in this video, the diver did not expect anyone at all and thought that he was completely alone, surrounded by small crustaceans and starfish. But soon, a great white shark literally started breathing down his neck. The man was lucky to dodge it in time. The fish was clearly not hungry and at the same time did not want to sort things out. Like, why did he not make way for it? The diver quickly got out of the water and swam home safely. And the shark, I'm sure everything was fine with the shark. It can definitely stand up for itself. In general, great white shark encounters are a full-fledged horror that divers watch from the front row with 3D glasses. Just imagine yourself in the shoes of this poor guy. He finds himself completely alone underwater. The only thing that he has with him of the sea accessories is flippers, with the help of which one cannot swim away from the predator. After all, it swims fast, with a speed of up to 35 miles per hour. So the guy was all alone and noticed the predator had its eye on him. You can tell it by the way it's moving. It sort of swam by, but then paused and started to turn around. I bet at that moment the diver's heart skipped a beat. He already imagined how the shark would rush down and open its mouth like in a horror movie. But fortunately for him, it didn't happen. The great white shark, like an energy vampire, fed off his fear and continued its long journey. Kayaker in trouble. That's what I would call the following video if I were posting it on the internet. It shows a poor kayaker somewhere far from the shore, all alone, surrounded by a great white shark. And it seems to me that at first the predator has no idea about him at all. The man himself swam into its clutches, if I may say so. As soon as the great white shark realized that someone was swimming above it, it showed interest in the stranger and began to pursue him. It's literally unrealistic to go away in a kayak alone, so the man had no choice but to sail around and wait for some air support. I don't understand what the people in the helicopter were waiting for, but the man in the water was clearly in trouble because soon he was already in the water outside his boat. It's unlikely he wanted to refresh himself, right? It's logical to assume that the shark threw him off, but for some reason didn't bite him. It was for the best though. The kayaker grabbed onto the boat as hard as he could and eventually got help. He was taken by helicopter and brought back to shore safely. In one boat. The people in the following video are in two different boats, although I'd say they were in one boat at this moment. Both fishermen were in trouble. They were alone in the middle of the ocean with no help nearby. They couldn't even call anyone, as was the case with the previous man and his air support. It was left to hope for a chance that the predator was not hungry, and it just came to them to check who was hanging around on its territory. It was off the coast of Australia. I thought that people in these parts are ready to encounter even aliens, but so far their preparation is bad, even when encountering with a great white shark known to us for a long time. In short, in the end, everyone survived. No one was even thrown overboard, although it seemed that it was about to be a real trouble. Photographers are strange people. I made this statement for myself after watching the following video. In this video, a young photographer went a little farther from the shore where it was a little deeper. He did it with one single purpose: to encounter a great white shark and get beautiful shots with it. Yeah, the things we do for our interest or profession. But wait a minute, you have no idea what this crazy man has done. The guy lowered the camera underwater and waited for the predator. The moment it appeared in the camera lens, he didn't pull the camera back out. And even now, he wouldn't put it away either. He'll wait until it almost completely opens its mouth. And only then will he pull his hand out of the water, already trembling with fear. Do you realize that if the shark was hungry, it would have bitten his hand in a heartbeat? What was wrong with this guy? Was he so devoted to his job, or did he not appreciate life and what it gave him? In fact, there are quite a lot of such tough jobs. In all of them, people risk their lives almost daily, and unfortunately, there are tragic cases. So in this story, a sea predator interfered with the filming process organized by researchers near the state of Massachusetts and checked the strength of the metal structure on which the expedition leader was standing. The man had a mini camera mounted on a 10-foot-long stick, and that was still barely enough to stay in one piece. The shark, having swum around the ship, decided to deal shortly with the intruders and tried to throw down the scientist standing on the platform. But the metal structure withstood the onslaught of the predatory fish, which in a moment disappeared into the sea abyss. In fact, such huge shark encounters are not rare. What's more, sometimes people take pictures of truly gigantic creatures that remind them of animals that are already extinct. Or did no one really go extinct? The shark that was caught on camera in 2017 was not comparable to any previously known predator. Even great white sharks are no match for it. It was very big, confident, and yet formidable at the same time. Unfortunately, no one had time to film it better, but the footage that was taken do not leave viewers indifferent. Do you think it could be a megalodon? Megalodon was primarily known for its aggressiveness. I don't know how scientists figured it out, but they say it was exactly like that. So that's the reason why the shark in this clip is considered to be as a very young meg. A man-eater attacked a boat of a fisherman from Australia and had absolutely no plans to leave them alone. To be honest, I have no idea why it acted this way. The predator didn't smell any blood in the water. It could not foresee that it had to spend all its energy to sink the boat, because there are tasty creatures on it. That's why, for example, great white sharks usually don't do that. This one was something completely different, with a crazy mind. I eat everything that moves. That's probably the motto of the shark in this next clip. Only more would have to be added to it. What doesn't move, I move and eat. People filmed a massive unknown shark that indiscriminately ate everything that fell out of a dumpster lowered into the water. I think that there were other, already dead fish in that very dumpster, and that's why the shark was literally swallowing whatever came out of there. Again, I personally don't think this is any kind of common predator at all, one of those we know. It's too big and has a slightly different character or something. Well, next I'll show you mysterious and frightening creatures filmed in various bodies of water. A look into the soul. Many river dwellers do not notice that they're being filmed and just go about their business as if nothing had happened. But this was not the case. The fish saw the visitor from land, swam closer, and stared at the camera. From this angle, the fish appears to have bottomless black eyes and a creepy smile. It looks like it's up to something insidious. It's a good thing it can't jump out onto the pier to deal with the cameraman. I wonder where this footage was taken, because I would definitely not want to get into the river where such a frightening fish lives. Divers, on the other hand, are the kind of people who are not afraid to go underwater to find or film something strange or unusual. In this case, they were lucky. During their underwater expedition, they encountered the record-breaking and largest snake on the planet, the anaconda. The giant female snake was leisurely slithering along the uneven bottom and was not very happy that some people were disturbing its peace. At one point, it even almost bumped its face into the camera, but luckily it didn't do anything. By the way, did you know that anacondas spend a lot of time underwater? Moreover, the Latin name of the anaconda translates as good swimmer. But how does a land creature manage to get along with water? All thanks to special structure of the nostrils, which are closed with special valves when submerged underwater. Thus, the snake feels comfortable and can stay underwater for a long time. The anaconda also sheds there. That anaconda was really big, but not as big as this creature that was filmed in Africa. It all happened on the Congo River. From a helicopter, the film crew managed to capture something very long and massive. Many believe it was a mythical monster named the Mokele Mbembe. Externally, it's something similar to the Loch Ness Monster. Locals believe that the giant could be over 40 feet long and weigh 15 tons. In fact, the Mokele Mbembe is still considered more of a fiction and a fairy tale than a real creature. Its existence has not yet been proven. However, the people living near the Congo River are convinced that the Mokele Mbembe is real and very dangerous. Something. Usually, you don't encounter someone colossal in rivers. As a rule, giants live in the seas and oceans. But this is clearly not the case here. We see an ordinary river, an ordinary shore, and not an ordinary creature at all. A certain black monster lingered in the shallow water, and then, as if dropped something from itself, changed its colors for a second. Some people think it was a large school of fish, but then why did the school of fish stay in place like a monolith? There's another version that the author filmed something related to methane and its emissions. This is more like the truth, but what if it's not methane but something alive but not yet studied? I think we shouldn't rule that out. Once again, we have shallow water. On a clear day, the author of this video was passing by a river, noticed movement, and took out his phone. A creature appeared out of the water. It had something like a proboscis with which it seemed to be examining the shore, either sniffing or poking at it or eating something. Soon the mystery of the river dipped its muzzle, but did not swim away. It lingered near the shore for a short while and disappeared only 40 seconds later. Personally, I don't know what to think. What do you think it was? Share your versions in the comments. And this is a creature every one of us recognize. On a pier near a river, they filmed something that looked very much like a mermaid. The half-human, half-fish noticed it, decided to make a quick escape, and crawled towards the water. Nessie's brother. Remember that strange creature that was filmed by a family in Australia on a fishing trip? Turns out Australia can surprise you with something else. This video was shot in a different place in Australia, but the creature in it is different as well. The river monster is slowly swimming in the water, at one point rising higher and showing part of its body. We can see how huge this monster is. It might even be dangerous. The author of the video called it the Australian Loch Ness Monster. So I suggest calling it just like that. Mysterious creatures can be found not only in the water. I suggest we move to land and look at some strange animals found in Africa. Mysterious monster. There is a popular belief on the internet that Africa is home to many mystical beings that not only walked here sometime in the past, but walk here daily these days. People don't have hard evidence, as in the case of all mystical stories. However, there is one curious photo in which two researchers are sitting next to the body of a monster that's passed away and are trying to take samples of its tissues for their research at the Scientific Center. Do you think it looks like the picture was photoshopped? Or is it a real monster that people have found? Imagine for a moment that this is all true. So there's a multi-meter tall dog running around in the forests of Africa? That's creepy. It'd be better if it was a fake. The most secretive creature. This is the nickname given by the locals to the African aardvark, this cute mainland dweller that looks like a big piglet with long hair ears. The aardvark means earth pig in the local language. Although this cute little thing has absolutely nothing to do with pigs, it was named earth pig for a reason. Digging land is its main job. You can find this monster wherever there's access to land. The only thing that the aardvark avoids is swampy or rocky terrain. It sleeps during the day, and at sunset it goes in search of food, termites, and ants. Pressing a long snout with a cartilaginous nose at the end of the ground and wiggling its ears, the aardvark moves in zigzags and sniffs out the paths of insects that lead to their nests. The aardvark's snout is very movable and is adept at picking up odors. Its nose has more scroll bones than any other mammal, 10 for each nostril. We, by comparison, have only 3. Scroll bones are the things that are responsible for picking up odors. The more of them, the more smells the creature can detect simultaneously. In combination with the fact that the aardvark has a well-developed brain, it masterfully tracks down any scoundrel and takes what's its. It seems that this is the perfect animal, but still not quite true. Our earth pig's eyesight is still bad. It doesn't know how to distinguish colors and doesn't see very well. When with the help of its sense of smell, this sniffer detects prey, it begins to excavate its den with its long and powerful nails. As soon as the hole is ready, the earth pig will put its snout down there and start working with its tongue to get out all the insects. Its tongue is very thin and at the same time covered with a sticky substance, which makes catching prey extremely easy. Who knows, maybe the animal can do something else. It's just very secretive and scientists don't know much about it. Take population, for example. Because of its life underground, no one's been able to determine it yet, and no one understands its evolutionary origins. The aardvark used to be classified as Edentata. This is the order which includes anteaters and sloths. But then it became clear that its resemblance to anteaters was based solely on lifestyle. When molecular studies were carried out, it became clear that this creature has much more in common with jumping shrews or golden moles. Now I'll tell you about one interesting lizard, which from afar seems quite unremarkable. Or rather, from afar you hardly notice it at all, because usually its length doesn't exceed 8 inches. However, this is the case when it's not the length that matters, but the way the animal knows how to handle it. The lizard's body has become the perfect mechanism for survival in the sun-baked wastelands of Africa. If someone decides to attack it, they'll immediately face 2-layer armor, which will be a challenge to get through. Outside, the lizard has strong, spiny scales, and inside it has osteoderms, special bone plates. By the way, I forgot to tell you, our friend's name is the armadillo-girdled lizard. When it realizes that the enemy is too close, despite the confidence in its armor, the armadillo-girdled lizard will do the following: curl up, bite its own tail, and turn into a spiny pancake. It seems like it doesn't mean anything at all. You can just straighten the transformer lizard, but it's not the case. It'll hold onto its own tail like this with a very powerful grip. In this pose, it protects its Achilles heel, its soft belly. In addition to its unusual appearance and amazing self-defense skills, the armadillo-girdled lizard can surprise you with its complete refusal to drinking water. The lizard quenches its thirst through its skin. In the rainy season, it's enough for the animal to fall into a puddle, and the high-tech coating itself will suck up and accumulate the necessary amount of liquid. The lizard doesn't like to feed on the energy of the sun or something similar. Here, the lizard adheres to the traditional method and eats beetles, millipedes, or scorpions with pleasure. Tsetse fly. The armadillo-girdled lizard is a real fear for the bug world. In fact, in nature, it's common that smaller creatures are afraid of larger ones. Makes sense, doesn't it? And what about the tsetse fly? They say it's more dangerous than a lion, a crocodile, and a hippo combined. Although outwardly the tsetse fly doesn't look like a monster at all, right? On the contrary, some people will find it cute. Transparent wings, less than half an inch in length, reddish eyes, nothing unusual. But stop. If you look closely, there's something about it. I mean that thin proboscis sticking out like a sword. It's a full-fledged vengeance weapon that the tsetse uses to wreak havoc on the people of Africa. In one sitting, the vampire fly can suck more blood than it weighs. And to be able to drink as much as possible, its abdomen swells several times. You'd think these insects had gone crazy. Why do they need so much blood? It's all about red blood cells, which are essential for reproduction. And reproduction in their life is a separate topic. Instead of laying eggs like all usual insects, flies carry their babies one by one. In fact, tsetse flies are one of the few viviparous insects on the planet. Birth only occurs when the baby is fully ready to pupate and transform into an adult fly. Over a lifetime, females carry up to 10 of such big babies the size of themselves. But still, few people are interested in how these flies reproduce. For many people, it'll be much more interesting to find out how these flies kill people. The fact is that tsetse flies were set up by trypanosomes, microscopic creatures that use these flying creatures like an airplane. When a tsetse bites a creature, uninvited saboteurs get into its stomach, after which they migrate to the salivary glands. A tsetse bites a person and transmits the disease to them. What do you think it is? A deer? An antelope? Or maybe it's just a Photoshop result and not a real animal at all. Okay, I'll reveal the cards. In front of you is a gerenuk, although it looks a little strange, but it is in fact very logical and correct. The second name for this animal is the giraffe gazelle. They're not related to giraffes, and the name was given for a specific long neck. However, I would call the legs as the main feature of this antelope. Because of the special structure of the spine, the gerenuk is able to stand steadily on 2 legs. This not only looks spectacular, but is also quite an effective method, because this is how the strange forest dweller successfully gets to its favorite leaves on the trees. In general, the gerenuk can be considered an office clerk of the African world. Usually it doesn't go outside its house, it's too lazy. But here it's important to say, do not confuse laziness with slowness. If there is even the slightest hint of danger, even some little threat to life, this antelope will accelerate to 43 miles per hour, and no one will even have time to blink an eye. Who would have thought that one of the most abundant primates in Africa would be very inconspicuous in reality? The one that's really hard to find. The name of this nimble creature is the lesser bush baby, or galago. Galago is too adorable for brutal Africa. It's all fluffy and small, it has cute eyes and weighs about 2.2 pounds. And its main weapon is urine therapy. If anything, it'll pee on the enemy, pee on its congeners, and pee itself, both to protect itself and to impress the opposite sex, of course. Their secretions have a strong smell. Washing their hands in it, lesser bush babies automatically mark everything they touch with their scent. At the same time, the cute furballs are extremely clean. On their forelimbs, they have a special claw that performs the function of a comb and helps to take care of the fur. Besides, they have their own toothbrush under their tongue. The cartilaginous comb helps to clean off all the excess from the teeth that clung during lunch. White and black colobus, and these are unique African monkeys which are known as colobus. Distinguishing them from other primates is easy. At the very least, you can look at their hands. Look at yours, and then look at theirs. And again look at yours, and then look at theirs. Notice anything? Black and white colobuses, unlike us and other primates, have no thumbs at all. No scientist knows why this is, but the fact remains. However, the lack of thumbs does not prevent them from moving deftly between trees. They're able to overcome distances of up to 50 feet and even change direction while jumping. These animals feed not only on fruit but also on leaves, tree bark, lichens, and flowers. That's all, guys. What African animal would you like to see in person? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.